Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today sporting in the northeast corner of the map playing in blue, we got Puppy Paw playing as the Mongols, and his opponent. In the southwest playing in red, we got Louis MT playing as the Ayyubids. Welcome everyone to Gorge. That's the map for today, and we're going to be having a game from EGC TV's Elite Classic 2. And I'm excited for this matchup in many ways because, of course, we've got a couple of options for both civilizations. Puppy Paw with the Mongols, trade could be a thing. I gotta say, trade used to be such a big part of Age of Empires 4. And then they kind of nerfed it a bit, which is kind of understandable. It was kind of overtaking things. But I gotta say, as a civilization, Mongols still do trade really well. So it should be pretty cool. Because, I mean, ultimately, trade is still incredibly powerful, but the real concern about trade is keeping it safe. So compared to, say, for example, I know a lot of you guys from the Age of Empires 2 scene, especially with Hidden Cup just gone on, that's kind of reinvigorated the Age of Empires 4 franchise, or the Age of Empires franchise. So I know a lot of people, maybe with Age of Empires 2, are starting to look at Age of Empires 4. How's it going, Arox? Would it be too much to give some new to the game details about the game? Yeah, no, of course, no problem at all. I'll sprinkle some of that stuff in, no problem at all. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I am streaming live on Twitch these days, so hence I will engage with chat on occasions. But either way, wherever you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, hope you guys are having a great day. Hopefully that day will get a little bit better with some entertaining Age of Empires. And a special shout out and thank you to everyone who's a YouTube member and Twitch subscriber. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, what's kind of interesting about this matchup in particular is that, well, I like to think about civilization matchups in terms of, civilizations have good bonuses that they posture towards, right? They have targets that they will have in mind, things that they want to achieve and do based on what their bonuses are. Like, they're naturally going to want to excel and use your bonuses. And so then it becomes an issue of, well, which civilization has bonuses that mean that they really want to leverage them so much so that the opponent needs to be the one that's kind of countering them, reacting to them, but possibly doing some damage. On this one, I'm not so sure because the Mongols, they are opening up with the barracks. He is heading out with the spearmen. Now, the thing about this is that the Ayyubids, I think, are a decent civilization to actually deal with an outpost rush, considering the fact they can go from military wing. Now, there is a bit of a lag time. They have to wait, obviously, for a Desert Raider to pop out. They get a free Desert Raider from the House of Wisdom when it does pop out. If they choose a particular wing, if they go for the military wing, then they can get the Desert Raider nice and early. Now, they have a lot of options, of course. 4 wings and 2 options per wing. Lots of options, but does delete the mining camp, gets the gold he needs for the tech up, and he will actually indeed be going for the military wing. So the outpost, is it coming? Is there a village being sent? There is indeed. There she goes. Now, it is a bit tricky. It's a bit hit and miss at times because obviously you have to wait for that Desert Raider to pop out, and then you've only got 1 Desert Raider to deal with 3 spearmen and a villager. So whilst it's not a given the outpost will go up, there's a okay chance it will, but there's also a chance that it gets denied. So I'm kind of interested to see if Louis MT is able to deny this in any way, but with 3 spearmen, it could be tricky, right? Bear in mind the Desert Raider does have that ranged attack it can toggle to, so that's really what it's going to be using. And so the Mongols really started to leverage this aggression, this cheaper outpost, and the early production of the spearmen, double production from the Uvu. And it's going to look to try and play his game, which I think, to be honest, if you allow the Mongols to play their game, it's a very scary proposition, right? They can get the early aggression, get some map control, map positioning, and put you under pressure, and then behind all that, they can get the cheeky kind of trade going. And I think it's very scary on a map like Gorge, because whilst you do have a channel in the middle, you can just kind of go directly to your opponent, and they're relatively close by. I think the trade runs quite nicely between, the edges of the map, but it goes through the main base. And so that already kind of gives you a measure of security as the Mongols, but obviously there's the rest of the trade route to deal with. Now the question is, if that's the option for Puppy Paw, if it does go for trade, how does the Ayyubids think about dealing with that? There's 2 ways, and one can be with early aggression, but the thing about that is it's not necessarily what the Ayyubids do strong, right? When we think of Ayyubids, we think about Castle Age, that kind of early Castle Age power spike they get, being able to mop up the relics quickly because of the Dervish movement speed, and then they get the little bit of eco boosting with the growth from the economic wing, extra 8 villagers and extra food on the berries, which is typically the builds we're seeing these days for the Ayyubids. But if you leave things that late to go to the castle age, some of the trade is already up and running, so it can be difficult. Obviously the military wing will help with getting the Desert Raiders up, and the outpost did go up in the end, and there was no way to deny that. Wasn't delayed at all, so any sort of further progression on that will be denied, which is actually quite important because, of course, the Mongols do like to try and spread their outpost rush, and once he's got one, wants to try and get another. to maybe suffocate. But yeah, the Desert Raider will try and deny that. There's the Silver Tree going up for the Mongols. Obviously, the tech up a little bit delayed, considering you'd have to invest in some spearmen and send a villager forward. But it's going to be played for the trade here, Puppy Paw. Behind this, I'm expecting a stable. Okay, was going for an art trade. Interesting. Now, the reason why I thought he was going to go for stable, Keshiks is a really nice unit for the Mongols because of the fact that, like, what do you think about it conceptually? You know, they'd never actually used to get Keshiks. It was kind of a relatively new thing for the Mongols. And I think generally the Mongol Keshik is a decent unit, but the main thing is it allows them to have a positive outlet for gold. Because if they go for trade, then you need to spend that gold in one way or another, right? Like if the trade does get a running, you want to spend it or, you know, use it in some way. You can trade it on a market, but obviously getting sort of a less favorable trade at times if you keep abusing the market. And the Keshiks allow that outlet, right? They are a gold unit after all. But it's actually opening up with Spearman Archers. And it's an interesting one, I gotta say. Going to move out on the map and try and get a clump of army together and do some damage. Now behind this, the Ayyubids are actually going to go for a second town centre. This is kind of greedy by Luyan. I'm not so sure about this play, right? Because, oh, it's kind of dangerous, right? Because, okay, he's going to be going up against trade, so he's going to play 2 town centre. And I mean, it can work, and the reason why I like it in some ways, but it's tricky against the Mongols because the trade for the Mongols is really strong. But one way it can work is bear in mind that the Mongols don't get any walls. They're going to have to rely on the outposts, which technically are cheaper, to be fair. And so what Louis MT is possibly thinking about doing is scaling the economy as well to match as much as possible. And then try and damage the trade, which is a possibility because ultimately the trade for the Mongols, trade is always hard to protect. But a second town centre play in terms of economic growth is not as hard. Obviously the town centre itself is a static defence, despite the recent nerfs. You can only garrison 7 villagers in the secondary town centre. The primary you can get 15 in them. But ultimately, it's often a little bit easier to defend a second town centre than it is a trade route, especially in the early game. Taking the engagement, couple of archers there for the Mongols, getting so much value, I've got to say. Took a lot of hits there, Louis MT. Not a favourable trade in that early engagement. Nice play there by Puppy Paw to put on the pressure and the aggression. And here comes the Silver Tree moving out to the corner of the map, looking to set up that trade network. Now the question is, where does he go for the second town set? Looks like he's going to go for the bottom corner on the deer camp and gold. That's exactly what he's doing on the wood. It's pretty far out there, actually. Now, Puppy Paw's going to have to be careful and scout that out. I'm sure a player of his caliber will. And that could invite pressure. So, actually, we're talking about trade being hard to defend, but... I mean, a second town set is a static defense, but when it's so far away from your main base, it's quite hard to get units out there. And you don't have, you know, the close proximity to your base to just get the units out there quickly. It's kind of an issue. And we have seen a movement away from this in the most recent patch in many ways. Like, a lot of players do actually look to try and build the second town centre a little bit closer to home because of how vulnerable it can be in terms of the HP being quite low. And Puppy Paw getting a lot of value, pushing the villagers off of berries. We'll have to see whether he's going to be able to punish that second town centre. But getting a good bit of raiding here. Does pick off a villager. Does lose the Desert Raider, though. And does add in a stable. He's got the Keshiks out and running. Army building up. Silver Tree setting up, so trade about to start soon. Interesting opening, I gotta say. So 2 town centers versus the Mongol trade. Who will come out on top? So we're gonna have to find out. Double archery range as the opening for the Ayyubids. Right, trader's about to pop out. He's starting to get the network running, getting a couple of outposts. New Khan rises. I'm not sure when he died, but he did. Possibly in the last fight. Alright, he's looking to wall up here. And I kind of like that, right? Because obviously you don't want to be raided in this area. You want to keep this town centre running and the villages active as quickly as possible. And keep them safe at the same time. Puppy Paw just heading in that direction though, so it might spot this. And Puppy Paw with the double production that Uvu is really scaling that army. It's really not to be underestimated, especially taking the good fights he's had so far. He's started to move out and is looking to go down south and he's going to spot the second town centre. It makes a lot of sense, right? Because obviously you've got gold and deer camp here. So definitely a right position to extend and expand the economy. I think in part Louis MT had to put the town centre here because of the first initial outpost. Does lose a villager. And so I've got to say that initial outpost has got so much value. What it's really done is forced Liu MT to place that second town center a little bit further out than maybe he would have wanted to. Like maybe he just didn't really want to be here, but he had no choice because he had to secure a gold vein, and there was a possibility maybe he could have, built a ram. They can do that without siege engineering the Ayyubids, but it's an expensive way to do it. And he's going to place the second town center anyway, so decided to go down the south. Approach, trade is being harassed and poked and prodded, but a couple of archers should be able to work on that Desert Raider relatively soon. And this is a bit of a precarious position. I mean, he might lose a lot here, Liu MT. He's going to have to try and defend this as best as possible. We'll lose that villager building up the gate. Or maybe not, actually. Or just not enough there to one-shot or two-shot that. Desert Raider very low in health. Trader still running. 68 gold coming in. And that's going to be adding in a bit of food and wood as well at some point, as he does scale the numbers. Going to break through the palisades and get access to the base. Now, bear in mind, he does have the gate you can kind of escape to, but he's going to try and defend it first. Probably the right move, of course. Doesn't want to leave that exposed and unchallenged, of course. Game is shaping up nicely with both players playing two slightly different strategies in terms of economy boosting. One playing trade, one playing second town center. And I gotta say, just with the army positioning for Puppy Paw, he's in a good spot. Like, the one thing about trade is I think it's actually better than a second town center if, and this is a big if he can keep it protected. That is the big if. And Puppy Paw is actually, he's doing it. He's protected his trade really well. And the way he's done it is just by being aggressive, which is what the Mongols love to do. Does have an outpost, will lose another villager, possibly two, just about saves that one. Does garrison inside, and Puppy Paw's double production from the Uvu, really putting him in a good position. Attack is sometimes best form of defense. His aggression with the Keshik as well. Going on that wood line, keeping the villagers idled, is just attacking from every angle. And this is definitely looking good. Looking very good indeed. Now, of course, the Keshik will sacrifice his life, but he does take out Desert Raider, and he causes a lot of idle time. Movement of the villagers was needed. How's it going, Arakin? How are you doing, Fanta? Hope you're doing well. Yep, so this is a game from EGC TV's Elite Classic. I'm doing the highlight games at the moment because I don't want to cast all of them. I want to pick the best ones, really. Or what I think could be the best ones. And I think, actually, we've been in for a treat. This is a great game so far. How's it going, Portuguese? Portuguese, you'll be happy. Guess what I did? I managed to get it on the village account. I didn't forget this time. Although, Puppy Paw just moved command there a little bit, and he will get caught out. We'll lose 3 archers. He's got to back away though, because his army's split into 2 locations. Bear in mind, if he does group them together, if he comes from the south and the north, could get a really good surround on Pintergrip. That could be devastating. I think he should do that. I mean, he's going to look to do it. It looks like he's doing it. This could be good. It's like positioning wise, this is kind of nice for Puppy Paw, engaging initially in the east, coming down from the south, and now Louis MT has to back away. He can't take this fight really. The numbers just looking too good. The Khan might use the movement arrow potentially if he's got it. He doesn't. It's on cooldown, I'm afraid. Keshik's though leading that front line, chasing on the archers, getting good value, and he's really pushing further forward. It's not looking great for Liu MT, picking off units on the retreat, and yeah, good pushback. A little bit of a mistake initially there for Puppy Paw, but plays like these, they don't make mistakes often, and they don't repeat them. And he's pushing on in. Liu MT on the back foot, and that's not really where you want to be, right? If you're up against trade, you got to pressurize it. I think second town center is a dangerous approach, but he's trying it. Certainly one methodology. Only other couple of strategies potentially that Ayyubids could have done. Maybe a Castle Age to try and then punish it with premium units. Maybe it is obviously a bit of a delay. You will allow the trade for a little bit. Possibly just one town center feudal age play. Heavily aggressive, but the trouble with doing that is, of course, then you're kind of playing against the Mongols and you're trying to fight fire with fire, right? Talking about feudal age aggression. There's not many factions that do it better than the Mongols. We can say that much. Does use the movement arrow, looking to try and catch up, and that's a nice. This is a really good timing for using it actually, because if he takes out some of these Desert Raiders, that's a big army to take out. Keshik's chasing on in, trying to navigate around the mountains. It does back away for now. Right, Silver Tree up to 12 traders. It's looking good. Now we'll be getting the 7 food and 7 wood as well. Actually, a nice little kick up the backside of that economy. Army numbers looking healthy. Mass archers, I quite like it. I gotta say, I feel like Desert Raiders, in terms of value they get, it's a tricky one, right? Because they're not, they're still pretty squishy, and the massive archers here from the Mongols, it's going to be enough. Like, look how much damage they do. They do a significant amount of damage. It's not like they, you know, you can't compare them to cavalry like in terms of horsemen in the traditional sense, because they are a light ranged unit. So bear that in mind. I mean, they do have a melee component, but in terms of how much damage they take, they do melt. Unfortunately, you can see how quickly they do melt. Down to 41 military, and Puppy Paw taking some great fights. And when you have trade behind this, things can possibly look to spiral. He's out on the map to take the boar as well, taking the rich sources of food. Up to 16 traders. That is looking scary. Coming down the south, looking to pressurize that second town center once again. Going down the west side again, just keeping active with his army. Puppy Paw doing this really well. Yeah, I think, yeah, Aarox, if you mentioned Rathas, I think it's similar. Yeah, they're actually very similar in terms of mechanics. They can switch between ranged and melee units, and melee attack rather. Yeah, they're very similar actually to Rathas, so that's a good comparison. I like that comparison. Here comes a ram being built on the ground. Obviously, Mongols looking to pressurize that second town, so it could be very exposed. It's going to be in trouble here, possibly, the Ayubis. Doesn't really have any military here. 7 villages garrisoned, and this is a mistake, obviously. Garrisoned them for a little bit too long, but yeah, they're back out again, but garrisoning in again, and yeah, keeping 7 villages idle like that, it's a big deal. It definitely escalates and accumulates. Villagers here about to go down. The Keshiks healing up when they do damage to the outpost, and they're going to be killing some villagers soon. There's 5 there, and Ram's working hard. Archer's going to pick off what they can. Bear in mind the archers can just dive this. The reason I love the archers in this stage, because if he breaks on in, he can dive this, pick off villagers, and he will lose a couple of archers or two, but you know, it's not a big problem. Because of the overkill that happens on them, it's possibly worth it. Although, having said that, taking the fight underneath the town center against this number of Ayubid archers, maybe not a good idea. He does back away for now. Ram is going to have to back away as well. Pretty slow to get going. Puppy Paw will possibly take the fight, though. Does a lot of damage to that Desert Raider. Doesn't get much value at all from that. Now looking to just torch down this outpost. He needs gold, right? He wants gold big time. But behind this, Castle Age coming in for Puppy Paw. Did go to the Castle Age. The Ayubids obviously, unfortunately, didn't spot that because of the little bug in the UI. Should have been paying attention. But yeah, he has teched up to the next stage, so possibly needing to secure that gold, of course. And Puppy Paw knows, he knows that, obviously. So this is a good pressure coming from Puppy Paw. Trying to deny that gold to try and stop the Camel Lancers popping out too many of them. They are starting to pop out now, so we'll be starting to get on top of the Archer mass. And this is where armoured units become really important. Mongols need to try and get some armoured units of themselves, because the Archers, well, when they do become veteran, in this numbers they can back a punch, but if you whittle down the numbers, they become a lot less relevant. And he's going to engage here, but LuMT, I don't think he has enough. Like, Camel Lancers are great, but he just doesn't have the mass he needs. He's being accompanied by the archers behind them. And does have the veterans to upgrade. The Mongols have to get out of there, right? He doesn't have the tech ups just yet. He's queued them up. But he can't afford to take a fight, and he's going to take a bit of the traders out. And this could be coming with good pressure, Louis, but the timing on this could be devastating. If the upgrades come in quick in time, I mean, he's going to have to still wait for the veterans to upgrade for the spearmen, but it's going to be another 30 seconds or so. He needs it now, but he's going to get a good number of Keshiks around the archers. It's just mass archers from the Ayubis. This is not great. He lost his Camel Lancers pretty early, and this is not a good fight, especially under the Cruel Tie. He extended himself way too far there, LuMT. Going to try and back away, but ultimately it's going to take damage against the cavalry, and the cavalry is what Mongols do best, and he's heading further forward. And these are veteran Keshiks getting so much damage. Does have Iron Undermesh as well to boot. The second upgrade for the archer line is in. But he's going to need more than just archers here. Camel Lancers, 2 of them. He's holding firm, Puppy Paw, and that's kind of almost all he needs to do. Did lose a couple of traders on this aggression, so LuMT has got some value. The town set in the south, live and buzzing. And I've got to say that tech up came at a very good time for Louis. Looks like he went up with the culturing, by the way, so it's quite likely he went up with the advancement to get the cheaper tech up and quicker tech up. Unfortunately, can't confirm that now, but it's quite likely to have been the case. I really wish that Capture Age was being a bit more actively developed for Age of Empires 4. I mean, I should have spotted it anyway, considering we know it's a bug, but it's unfortunate. Not a bug, but it just doesn't have the features there. It's unfortunate. It must have been the Culture Wing advancement. Getting a couple of kills here on the boar, actually. This is pretty exposed. Spearman getting involved now, but lost 3 villagers, so good value already from those camel lancers, got to say. In terms of relics, looks like Louis MT is starting to pick them up. He's got one in his grasp at the moment. Needs to bring that one back home. We're about to take the fight in the middle. Kurultai deploys, about to take the charge, trying to build a Mangagenik on the field, but possibly won't happen. Keshik's on that front line. Lancers are trying to get a wrap around the archers. They probably will. Actually, it's a big fight. Oh, Mangagenik has to deploy, but I think Puppyboy's probably done the right thing. He's trying to gap close, or maybe not, actually. He hasn't gap closed enough. Going to try and get into the minimum range of the Mangagenik, but the Mangagenik did fire off that first shot, which was great. Veteran archers, though, for the Mongols, doing great work, especially with the Kurultai involved. I think the Kurultai has made the big difference. Louis MT having to back away. He's lost so many units, though. This is not looking great for him. Keshik still riding on in, picking off those archers. The Mongols pushing on behind this. This is not looking great for Louis MT by any means. He's lost the Mangagenik, and that was a clutch play by Puppyboy. It was a ballsy one, but it's making it work. Wallow coming up on the east. Is it just a bit of a bait? Oh, he's looking to try and get a unit. Doesn't quite manage it in the end. Only just gets out of there. And now the Mongols, 61 military versus 26. They're going to heal on up with the Kurultai. Definitely with the advantage here, Puppyboy. Despite having lost a couple of traders and still might continue to lose one more too. He's got definitely the military advantage. He's pushing on in. Maybe all he needs now is siege. He might just dive this though. We have to see really how much he commits. And I think with the Kurultai in play, I think he can afford to do that. I think if he didn't have the Kurultai, it's a different story, but he's got it. And this is where this play into trade is so powerful. It gives him so many adaptations, abilities to choose different landmarks. He's chosen the Kurultai, of course. No real need for step redoubt when he got this amount of gold coming in from trade. Taking the fight, and this is an issue for Louis MT. Does he fight this? I'm not so sure. He might need to wait a little bit. He could potentially wait for a couple more camel lancers to pop up, but maybe not, because look at the reinforcements coming in for the Mongols. They're coming in with his Keshiks. He's looking in dire straits. Louis MT, he's struggling in this game. He needs to find a way to stabilize. And the army start to dive on that base, and there's only a handful of archers remaining for the Ayyubids. At this stage of the game, in the mid-castle age, it's not a great unit to be having. If you're up against armored units, which he is, he's up against Keshiks, and whilst there aren't that many of them, there's enough there to do a lot of damage in terms of soaking up archer fire, allowing the archers for the Mongols to get their value as well. And he's got a couple of man-at-arms dust in there as well. That's going to be problematic to deal with. Even without the +2 ranged armor, he's still making it work. Trying to get a Wallow to try and distract more than anything, but I think if he loses this mass, Louis MT is going to just die on from here on out. The Yukon rises, adds to the fight. Villagers going to be pushed away from gold, and gold's going to become an issue. He's got gold in the south, but there's only 1,600 left in that. I don't think he's going to be able to survive for too much longer anyway. So it might not matter. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Louis MT has to tap out. The Mongol trade was protected so well for Puppyboy. And boy, oh boy, did he trade well. And he brought home the cash. And he cashed in the army. Hope you guys enjoyed this castle game. Take care. And see you next time.